Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at the future of business leadership.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we found this really interesting document that compares leading a business to creating a work of art. So it's all about vision, right?
Yeah.
Having that vision for what you want to create. But the document takes kind of an interesting twist on this. Business isn't static, right? It's not like a painting that just stays the same.
Right. It's constantly changing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this document really emphasizes that point. It actually talks about how business leadership is facing what it calls a perfect storm of challenges.
A perfect storm.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of things hitting at the same time.
It's a metaphor, but it's talking about all these major issues that are converging right now.
Like what kind of things?
Well, it mentions the war in Ukraine.
Oh, right.
The geopolitical instability there, China's ambitions.
Yeah.
Growing resource competition, that kind of thing. Economic instability, of course.
Of course. Always got to have that.
Yeah. And then the climate crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the rapid pace of technological change.
Oh, right. Yeah, it feels like every day there's some new thing you got to learn.
Exactly. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot for anyone to handle, especially business leaders.
So you're saying these traditional leadership models, like, they're not really equipped to deal with all of this.
That's the argument that the document makes. Yeah.
You think they're really breaking down, like, these old models? I mean, they've been around for a while, haven't they?
They have, but the document makes a pretty bold statement.
Oh.
It says, business leadership as we see it practiced today simply doesn't work anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
All right, so no mincing words there, but why? Why doesn't it work anymore? What's the issue?
Well, it points to a number of issues, but one of the big ones is the limitations of things like financial reporting.
Oh, interesting.
So those reports, they show us what happened, right?
Yeah.
In the past. They give us the numbers, but they don't explain why those things happened.
Oh, I see.
And they don't really tell us what to do next.
Yeah. It's like you're driving a car and you're only looking in the rearview mirror.
Exactly.
You know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this perfect storm brewing, and we've got these kind of outdated approaches to leadership.
Yeah.
So how are businesses supposed to adapt to all of this? I imagine it's different for, like, a huge company versus a small startup, right?
Right. And the document highlights that contrast.
Okay.
Larger companies, they have more resources,
Of course. Yeah.
but they can also be slow to change.
Like a big ship, hard to turn.
Exactly. Whereas smaller companies, they're more agile.
Yeah.
They can adapt more quickly, but they might not have the resources to weather a big storm.
Yeah, they're kind of fragile.
Exactly. So it's kind of a paradox.
Yeah. So everybody's struggling in their own way, it seems. What about the role of management consultants? Where do they fit into all of this, this shifting landscape?
Well, traditionally, smaller businesses have relied on consultants to kind of fill in the gaps, right? Provide expertise that they might not have in-house.
Right.
But now it seems like both businesses and their consultants are kind of struggling to keep up.
With the perfect storm.
With everything, yeah. And the document talks about the difference between what it calls inside out and outside in approaches to consulting.
Inside out versus outside in. I'm guessing the inside out is the problem here.
It can be. It's when consultants, they focus too much on their own offerings, their own solutions, instead of really understanding the client's needs first.
Yep.
The document uses the example of outdated consultant websites.
Websites?
Yeah, like the consultant's own websites that clients can't even understand.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's like a disconnect.
Okay, so that's inside out. What's the solution then? How do we shift to that outside in approach?
Well, the document actually presents a potential solution called Benina.
Benina.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's designed to help businesses navigate this perfect storm we've been talking about.
Benina. I'm intrigued. How does it work?
Well, it starts with empowering clients to self-diagnose their own needs using a special tool. And then based on that self-diagnosis, they can engage consultants for targeted support.
So instead of the consultant coming in and saying, here's what you need to do, they're helping the client understand their own problems first.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. It kind of flips the script.
It does. So the consultant's role, it shifts from being like an interpreter of data to more of a coach.
Exactly. A coach who guides the client through the complexities.
Okay, I was starting to get a sense of how this Benina thing works. But what about the specifics? What does this self-diagnosis tool actually do?
Well, let's dive into those details next. Benina offers a unique application, and it has features like free positioning for businesses, a data warehouse, and targeted reports. Okay. So there's a lot to unpack there.
So you mentioned Benina has this application for like self-diagnosis. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it all starts with this tool they call the Benina positioning tool.
Okay.
And this basically allows businesses to kind of get a clear picture of where they stand, like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, that whole 9 yards.
Oh, so kind of like a SWOT analysis.
Yeah, it builds on that, but it goes way deeper. So think of it as like a SWOT analysis on steroids.
All right, I like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's really about getting the client to answer a series of questionnaires.
Okay.
That are specifically tailored to their business. So it's not just a generic thing.
Oh, so it's really personalized.
Yeah, exactly. And it covers everything from leadership styles to company culture to, of course, the financials.
And these questionnaires, I'm imagining they're designed to really like dig into the nitty-gritty details, right?
Absolutely. They're all about getting to the heart of the business.
Okay.
And the best part is it's completely free for the client to use.
Free.
Yeah.
So it's like a low-stakes way for businesses to kind of dip their toes into this whole like Benina thing.
Exactly. It removes that initial barrier to entry.
I like it.
So once the client completes the questionnaires, then Benina's AI gets to work.
Ah, the AI. Everyone's talking about AI these days.
That's right.
So what's its role in all this?
Well, it's the brain behind the scenes, you could say. It analyzes the client's responses to the questionnaire, and then it generates what's called a Benina position report.
Okay.
And this report is it's really visually engaging, easy to understand.
So it's not just like a dry technical document that's going to put the client to sleep.
No, not at all. It's got, charts and graphs and all, the whole shebang.
Okay. So it's pretty user-friendly.
Yeah, exactly. It's designed to be a conversation starter, something that sparks a discussion and helps the client really see their business in a new light.
Okay, so let's say a client completes this Benina positioning.
Yeah.
They get their fancy report. What happens next? Does like a consultant swoop in and start giving orders?
No. It's not like that at all. Remember, it's all about this outside-in thinking.
Right.
The consultant's role is really to guide, not to dictate.
Okay, so it's more of a collaborative approach.
Exactly. The report really serves as a starting point for a conversation between the client and their consultant.
Okay.
Or even, a new consultant that they might be thinking about working with.
Oh, interesting. So like if I'm a consultant and I see that a potential client has completed, a Benina positioning, that's a good sign that they're, ready to take action.
Absolutely. It's like they're raising their hand saying, hey, we're open to exploring new solutions.
Okay. So it's a lead generation tool for consultants as well. That's interesting.
It is. And there's more. All this data from the positioning is stored in a central data warehouse.
Okay.
That consultants can access. So, a consultant can see which clients have completed the positioning, can get a sneak peek at their report, and start thinking about how they could best meet those clients' needs.
So it's like a matchmaking service almost.
Uh-huh.
For businesses and consultants.
Yeah, in a way.
I like it. But what about the client's role in all this? Are they just like passive recipients of the consultant's, wisdom?
No, not at all. Remember that shift from interpreter to coach that we talked about earlier?
Yeah. The consultant's like a business therapist now, kind of guiding the client on this journey of self-discovery. I'm getting a little carried away with the metaphors here, but I think you get the idea.
I do. I like that. I like that metaphor. But yeah, this is where the client really takes ownership,
Okay.
They need to be actively involved in the process. Asking questions, challenging assumptions, and ultimately making decisions about the direction of their business.
So it's not just about the consultant coming in and saying, here's what you need to do.
Nope. The Benina process really empowers the client to make informed decisions based on data and insights.
I like it.
And this brings us to the next stage, which is called navigation.
Navigation. Okay, now I'm really picturing a ship captain battling the perfect storm here. This is where the consultant's expertise really comes into play, right?
Exactly. So the consultant helps the client make sense of all this data, connect the dots, and develop an action plan. They're asking the right questions, challenging assumptions, and helping the client see things from new perspectives. It's really all about guiding the client towards effective solutions.
Okay, so it's a true partnership then, not just a one-way street. But how does this navigation actually work, like in practice?
Well, imagine a client sitting down with their consultant and they've got their Benina report in front of them. The first step is to identify a critical issue that they want to tackle.
Okay.
Maybe it's declining profits or adapting to a changing market, something like that.
So the report is kind of like a map, then, that highlights potential trouble spots.
Yeah.
And then the consultant helps the client zoom in on a specific area.
Exactly. And then using that initial diagnosis, the consultant can delve deeper into the Benina data warehouse and generate a much more comprehensive report that's tailored to that specific issue.
I see.
And the consultant's expertise really comes into play here in analyzing this data, helping the client understand what it means for their business.
So the initial, positioning, that's kind of like the broad overview, and then they can kind of drill down from there into the specifics.
That's a great way to put it. But it's not just about, presenting the data. It's about working collaboratively with the client to develop solutions. The consultant might challenge the client's assumptions, help them see things from different perspectives, and ultimately empower them to make informed decisions.
Okay, so we've got the diagnosis, the navigation. What happens next? Where does the rubber really meet the road in terms of implementing changes?
That's where the final stage comes in, and it's called Process Fusion Intelligence.
Process Fusion Intelligence.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty high tech.
It is, in a way, but it's also about something very human. It's about the fusion of human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, so back to this Process Fusion Intelligence, or FI.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, Are we talking robots taking over the business world here?
No, not quite. It's not about robots replacing humans. It's more about how do we combine the best of both worlds? So human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
Okay, so humans and AI working together. But why is this fusion? Why is that so important for businesses?
Well, think about it. We're drowning in data these days, right now.
Yeah.
But data alone, it doesn't solve problems. It's what we do with that data that really matters.
Yeah. It's like having all the pieces of a puzzle, but no idea how to actually put them together.
Exactly. And FI, Process Fusion Intelligence, this provides that framework, that process for turning data into decisions and then decisions into action.
Okay. So it bridges the gap between insight and implementation.
Exactly.
Okay, so just to recap here, we've got the diagnosis phase where the business uses Benina to kind of understand its own challenges. Then there's the navigation phase where the consultant helps them chart a course forward. And finally, we've got FI, which brings it all together, makes those insights actionable.
Yeah, that's a great summary.
Okay, good. Glad I'm following along. So this last stage, this FI stage, it sounds like it's really about kind of weaving those insights into the very fabric of the business.
It is. It's about creating systems and structures that support continuous improvement and adaptation.
So it's not just a one-time fix, it's an ongoing process.
Exactly. It's about building a business that's agile and responsive in the face of, constant change. And that's where this whole fusion part of FI really becomes important.
Okay, so can you elaborate on that a little bit? What do you mean by fusion?
So it's about breaking down silos between different departments and creating a more holistic approach to leadership. Imagine the marketing team, the finance team, the operations team, all working together, informed by the same data and insights.
Okay.
That's the power of FLL.
So no more departments operating in their own little bubbles.
Right.
That sounds like a good recipe for better communication and collaboration.
Exactly. And Benina provides the tools and the framework to actually make that happen.
Okay, I see the potential here. But let's be honest, transforming an entire business, that sounds kind of daunting. Is this fusion of human intelligence and AI, is it really achievable for most companies?
It can be challenging, but the document argues that it's not only necessary, but it's also achievable. And it all comes back to that key concept we've been talking about, that outside-in thinking.
Right, starting with the client's perspective, their needs, their challenges.
Exactly. And then using the power of technology and human expertise to guide them on that journey of transformation.
It feels like we're on the verge of a major shift in how businesses are led. The old ways just aren't cutting it anymore. We need new approaches, new tools, new mindsets.
I couldn't agree more. And Benina offers a really intriguing glimpse into what that future might look like.
Yeah. So what's the takeaway for our listeners today? Whether they're, a CEO or a manager or an entrepreneur just starting out, what should they be thinking about after this deep dive?
I think the message is clear. The business world is evolving rapidly, and those who embrace innovation, collaboration, and this outside-in perspective, they'll be the ones who drive.
And remember, this whole Benina thing, these principles, They can be applied beyond just the business world, right? I mean, think about education, healthcare, even government. Anywhere where data-driven decisions and collaboration are key.
That's a great point. It really makes you think, how could you apply these principles in your own work or even in your personal life? Something to ponder.
It certainly is. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.